Okay. Soldiers and Their Toys by Lostfol. Corporal Post watched his fire team with a wary eye as they prepped for the mission. Each member of the squad was getting ready for their impending assault. Lord, please let this mission go smoothly and make sure Specialist Kellogg doesn't do anything stupid, he prayed silently. Specialist Kellogg was busy defacing his assault suit. Really little more than a fancy EVA suit. Corporal Post had to just shake his head at the peace symbol the specialist was drawing on his chest plate. You know, the captain catches you doing that and he will have your ass, especially when even General Mills will be in attendance with the allied races and their ambassador. Everyone is watching to make sure we impress our new allies, not to see how royally you can screw up, Corporal Post observed while thinking. Maybe that will finally free me of this screw-up. Don't worry about it. I already took care of our squad's cameras, and Captain won't see it, and I'll clean it up after this dog and pony show, Specialist Kellogg replied, never even looking up from whatever else he was drawing. What do you mean? The corporal asked, already knowing he probably didn't want to know. That new guy and I made sure any attempt to hook into our cameras got rerouted. Just trust me, Corporal, Private Kellogg replied with a smile. Corporal Post just shook his head. I best go ahead and check on the other three. Kellogg could screw up a wet dream, so no way he rerouted the cameras. This is Private Trix's first mission. Must make sure his suit is even sealed. Specialist Graham and Toucan have done this enough that I don't have to worry too much about them. As the corporal approached, he was just in time to see his senior specialist send the private to ask his squad leader for some gig line. Shaking his head, he couldn't help but think, no wonder they call this team the Fruit Loops. That explains the Toucan name. Captain Crunch watched the skeletal assault pod race towards their targets from the drones launched at the same time. Well, gotta give the flyboys this. That was almost too smooth. Just beyond the engagement range of the Dovac cannons, he had seen the brief flash of the assault pods firing. The ship that had carried them had fired off some torpedoes at the same time. Captain Crunch had been too happy to see the Dovac point defense was distracted from his boys. Behind him, Captain Crunch could hear General Mills briefing the collected Allied generals and ambassadors. I still can't get used to all these aliens. They may have better technology, but they are idiots in a fight. The humans were new to the Alliance. Having been contacted only because the Allies were struggling against the Dovac, none of these races were as warlike as the reptilian aliens. The best Captain Crunch could do was think of them as the birds, the bugs, and the bears. I still can't believe the diplomatic corps can even communicate with them. Those oversized cranes have too many apostrophes in their names and just talk in whistles. The bugs have a name that sounded like a spoon in the garbage disposal and a language that matched. Those oversized teddy bears, those little bear-like McFuzzy somethings, are about the only ones I can kinda understand. Captain Crunch thought as he listened to something that sounded vaguely like a one-man band falling down the 3,000 steps of the Burj Khalifa. Captain Crunch realized the human ambassador and General Mills had approached them. Turning to face him, the ambassador stated, Captain, we are going to share this historic feat with the Alliance. We want you to pipe it out to show the value of us allies. We want you to pipe it out to show us the value... One more try. We want to pipe it out to show the value of us as allies, the human ambassador stated. Before Captain Crunch could even reply, General Mills cut him off. Do it, Captain. It's already cleared. With a crisp, yes, sir, Captain Crunch turned back to the feed. He was noticing an odd behavior, but the general's command had been clear. Why does every surveillance drone I activate appear to be focused on the Corporal Post squad? Knowing there wasn't much he could do about it, with all eyes on him, he silently prayed, Please don't let those idiots do anything stupid. General Mills heard the McFurry something ambassador gasp. I still can't believe these soldiers volunteered to do this. Do they know the risks? The general spared him a glance while cursing the human ambassador for sending the space Care Bear to watch over his shoulder. The general spared him a glance while cursing the human ambassador for sending the space Care Bear to watch over his shoulder. Ambassador, I assure you they are all volunteers. Captain Crunch picked each of them personally for this mission. The confused expression on the creature almost made the general laugh. I hope I don't accidentally call this thing Braveheart Lion, he quietly thought as he looked at the sputtering bear-like alien. The cockroach-looking creature next to it started to say something, but was apparently distracted by the feed on the screen. As General Mills looked towards the screens, he could see the Dovac point defense system were starting to put on an impressive light show. The Dovac had almost finished destroying the torpedoes, but seemed unaware of the assault pods. General Mills could only imagine the confusion the Dovac would likely experience as to why the human fleets were sitting at long range. Ravan, commander of the Dovac warship, the Hunter, watched as the alien warship had unleashed a barrage of torpedoes at his ships. These new ships are already showing more strategic knowledge than these allies usually do. The use of a picket line in skirmishes was unexpected, he thought as he watched the skirmish line regroup with the fleet. I think this was one of Envy's. I wonder if this is I wonder if this is the new race I heard the prey races had recruited. He guffawed. I almost hope they have a better plan than that if they are to be a challenge. Through the command deck, he could hear his officers laughing at his boast. Still, deep down, he felt a nagging doubt. Surely their allies had warned them we would shoot down those torpedoes. The range was too far for them to have a hope of getting past our point defense. Even as he was thinking about that, his sensor officer suddenly shouted, Sir, we are picking up a strange signal near us. I think it's a drone. The ship's AI has been able to interpret it. It's an image signal. Ravan felt a chill run through him. Put it on the screen. As he gave the command, the holo display shrunk down to a smaller display size and was replaced by a grainy image. On it, 4 dark shapes appeared to be floating towards the outside of the ship. Just as Ravan was about to say something, the camera zoomed in on one of the figures. He was puzzled by what appeared to be a large yellow circle with what almost appeared to be a face drawn on it. With a sense of dread, he wondered, why are they floating in the void? Turning to his second in command, Citius. What are they doing? Why do they have soldiers floating in the void? Did we hit one of their ships? He had thought he watched the battle carefully, but perhaps one of the ships in his line had struck a skirmisher. Ravan suddenly was getting a sick feeling. Given the size of their fleet, why are they just watching? None of this would have worried him had he thought that one of those peacenik McClosters was in charge, but those aliens were still unknown. But these aliens were still unknown. As his reptilian eyes focused on the displays, he listened for his second's response. Sire, they appear to be landing troops on our ship, he reported. The second was obviously confused by this approach. It was common knowledge that boarding an enemy ship was tantamount to suicide. As he watched on the screen, the black armored form with the smiley face on its back ignited his handheld plasma beam. Feeling a sense of dread, he yelled, They are attacking our ship! The quiet voice of his second responded, How should we respond, sire? Ravan realized with a sense of dread that there would probably be less than 5 suits on the ship for traversing the void, and those were built for maintenance. Worse, nothing on the ship was designed to shoot along the hull. As his crew looked at him, he couldn't help but think, What sort of insane species is this? This isn't how you fight in space. Secured on the hull with his mag boots, Corporal Post had to take a minute to appreciate the chaos he and his brethren were causing. Keying his squad, Look up, boys! They decided to give us a light show. As he surveyed the space around him, he couldn't resist a maniacal smile. The lizards were firing off every weapon they could, randomly, in hopes to stop the now obvious boarders. As their ships drifted out of the formation, they were raining fire upon each other in their desperation. "Let's light them up!" he yelled with glee, as the plasma blade on his suit's glove lit up, extending its red cutting blade. He marveled at how it reflected off the ship around him. He looked to his side in time to see Private Trix plunge his blade deep into the wall of the vessel near himself, resulting in an almost explosive escape of pressurized gases. "Oh, shit!" the private yelled as he lost his footing, drifting almost a foot off the deck before he used his suit's small jets to get back to the deck. "Careful, Cherry. Hate to lose you already," Specialist Graham yelled. "Where is Kellogg?" was as far as Corporal Post got before he suddenly heard the specialist over the radio. Was coming over the radio. Looking over, Corporal Post realized that Specialist Toucan and Kellogg were cutting away at an obvious turret. With a sigh, he keyed his mic. "Damn it, Kellogg, they aren't lightsabers, they are plasma blades, and keep your sound effects in your own damn head." He didn't want to admit it, but even he couldn't help but admire the way Kellogg pretended to be using the Force. Kellogg had finished cutting through the base of the turret and managed to show off an actor-grade force push as the pressurized hull rocketed it into space. Shaking his head as he found himself joining in on the fun, Corporal Post had to go ahead and say, "You're still no Jedi. More like that freaking Jar Jar character." "That's Darth Jar Jar to you, Corporal," came Kellogg's quick reply. Captain Crunch should have felt great, been ecstatic even at the success of his boarding troops, and were it not for whatever system glitch was keeping the camera focused on the Fruit Loops, might have been. He quickly clicked through cameras 10, 11, and 12. He was getting desperate to find something that showed him anyone other than Specialist Kellogg. Instead, behind him, all he could hear were Allied ambassadors hammering the human diplomats and General Post with questions. He could almost feel the general's glare on the back of his uniform as he again tried to change the camera and microphone feed. As he looked back, he again tried 3 more cameras. As cameras 13, 14, and 15 came up, he was again treated to 3 more perspectives of Kellogg's graffiti-covered suit. Many of the Dovak ships were visibly losing gases into the void. Debris was raining down from the ships in a steady stream. The humans on the hull, emboldened by their success, were starting to cut into the ships. The video feeds from this squad, though, were not helping. Their sound effects and hand motions had convinced the Allies that the humans had a hidden secret telekinetic power. Glancing over his shoulder towards the general glaring at him, he cycled 3 more cameras. As he looked back at the screen to see Kellogg's now familiar suit, the captain grimly thought, "I wonder if getting force choked would be as painful as what's going to happen when we leave this room." Specialist Kellogg was ecstatic. He was living a dream. Never in his wildest dreams did he think he would get to live the power fantasy of his childhood. But here he was on the hull of an alien ship, equipped with an honest-to-God lightsaber. And it actually worked. Looking around, he realized his squad had already made short work of the priority targets, and even caused the main drive of the lizard ship to go offline. He couldn't help but think, I shouldn't have taken out the squad's cameras. It would be so awesome to have some photos of this. He moved across the lizard ship, no longer the proud warship he had originally landed on, and spotted a crew hatch. With an evil smile, he had an idea. Using his suit's jets, he launched himself the remaining 20 feet towards the hatch, carefully timing the activation of his lightsaber. He managed to neatly cut the hinges and, as he landed, yelled, "Force push! Mwah!" As all of his squad looked his way, he could only imagine how impressed they were to see his hand movements appear to fling the hatch now rocketing into space as he acted the role. Over the mic, he heard the others in his squad cheer as they emulated his force powers. Damn, I should have kept our cameras working. Footage of this would have been sick, again crossed his mind. Now it was time for the coup de grace. Moving towards the now open hatch, he did his best impersonation of his favorite character from those classic movies. General Mills couldn't see the situation, General Mills couldn't see how this situation could get much worse politically. Their allies were completely unnerved at the video feed that they were getting, and no matter what the captain did, the idiot somehow never managed to change it. To top it all off, and no matter how much he tried to explain that these humans were pretending, each glance at the screen just made the situation worse. As the specialist covered in graffiti proceeded to yell "force push" and pretended to throw a door, one of the living Care Bears gasped. The bugs and birds had long since fallen completely silent. He could only imagine the upcoming diplomatic fallout. The slack-jawed look of the Care Bear was enough to make him glad he wasn't in the diplomatic corps. Just as the general was rubbing his brow and thinking, "It can't get any worse," over the columns of the entire ship, Specialist Kellogg came over the feed with a heavy mechanical breathing. "I am Darth Vader, you bitches, and I am your father." Cragat of the McClosters wrinkled his bear-like face in confusion, looking towards Clackbert and I can't say these names. Spectacly ambassadors. He could see they shared his feelings. He had tried to communicate through the translator to the human diplomats in general to get clarification how those soldiers on the screen could push things into the void without touching them, how they were able to handle simple scrapping tools as though they were weapons they had been training with for years, and most importantly, how did they have soldiers related to the Dovaks? Whatever the reason, it was quickly becoming apparent to the diplomats in general. Whatever the reason, it was quickly becoming apparent the diplomats in general would not provide the answers he sought. Turning towards Luke, the human ambassador, "Master Luke, can you please explain what we are seeing?" Beside him, he knew his fellow diplomats were now looking towards Luke. All were expecting an answer. He felt a wave of relief as Luke gave him that positive smile he had learned about and responded, "Crag, I know this must be confusing, and hope this does not hurt our relationship. I've just gotten authorization to share the entire documentary. Have you ever heard of the Jedi?"